Now that we've composed our scene, all we need to do is add a couple of final details. In this particular lesson, what we'll be adding is a couple of human scale figures into the space in order to give a relative sense of scale to our mobile traffic light designs. To begin with, we're just going to make a final adjustment to the folded configurations of our design. So to begin with, let's just remove the items that we don't need from the composition. So we're just simply going to hide them out temporarily. We can hide out or turn off the lower backdrop as well. So we'll just scroll down to the backdrop layer, switch that off for the moment, move the layer manager out of the side, and you'll notice, as is often the case with these design processes, there's the odd item that needs to be refined. In this particular case, we want to remove the lower ring there, so we're just quickly going to select all three designs, ungroup them, there we go, zoom back in, grab that element by itself, press delete because it's no longer needed in that configuration, zoom back in on the next one, scroll from right to left to select that item. Just make doubly sure that you're only grabbing the relevant section, press the delete key so we've just got the bottom of the post showing, and lastly grab the next one as well, there we go, zoom in, grabbing just the base ring and deleting that. So that's brought everything back into the correct configuration. Scroll across, scroll down to the group command and group each of those items individually. Simply right click to repeat the command, right click with the mouse to repeat the command, and we can double check we've got everything in shot there. So we'll scroll down just out of habit to bring our final view selection up, right click to show our objects on the light bulb icon. There we go, that's everything in the space. And if we can just bring up our layer manager and re-switch on Con Layer I, you'll notice that there's just two items that were left there before, which are going to be the locations of our figures in space. So that's where they're going to sit in space. The command we're going to use in order to create those surfaces is we're going to use the surface plane vertical command. Make sure that the endpoint is the only one that's activated in terms of the snaps command, and we'll simply move on to the correct layer. So before we do that, we'll move on to our scene, drop down to the bottom of that, create a fresh layer, new layer. There we go, and you'll notice the edge is still there, so we're going to shell out of that command, double click on the layer, layer 01, and we'll change the name to figures. Make that the active layer by moving the tick tab on current down to the correct location, move the layer manager to one side, and we'll commence again. So we're going to go to left click surface, plane, scroll down, and you'll see there's corner to corner 3 points, and the third one down is vertical. Now we can key these in with specific dimensions. They'll be used to match the JPEG sizes that are in your reference file folder. But in this particular case, the construction lines for speed of operation are already there in place, so we can simply click on the bottom of those items, shell out. What I'm going to do temporarily is just hide out the various traffic lights because they're no longer needed. In fact, we can switch those off using the layer manager. So we just reduce the traffic light on the layer manager tree, switch those off. So we've just got the con layer open and the figures layer current. And we can go back to our surface command, surface, plane, vertical, and we're going to make two elements there. There's the first. Just having a bit of trouble clicking on there. We'll just zoom in on our perspective viewport and get it right this time. There's the end. There's the end. Scroll up. There's our first plane that we're working with. Zoom on the perspective view, right click to bring up that command again. So we're going to use the zoom window command just to bring us in nice and close. There we go. Clicking the ends of the line There we go. So the labels will show up on the snaps command when you're in the correct location, and we now have those two layers in place. Reconfigure the final viewport. So I've scrolled down, right-clicked on the right view, go on to Set View, and go on to Rend View 1. I'm going to switch back on the traffic light, so I'll just bring the Layer Manager back into play, switch that on screen so everything's in space, just so we can see how it's sitting there in the space. Now, open up the V-Ray Materials Editor, and we're going to make two fresh materials. Okay, so to begin with, right-click on the scene materials, scroll down, we'll have two standard materials. So there's the first one. We'll rename it Figure A. Click OK. Repeat the procedure, create material, standard. Right-click on that, rename material, Figure B. There we go. In each case, the diffuse color will be set to light gray. So we're repeating the procedure on each one here, just using the main color window. Now we need to add a transparency map to each one. So working with Figure A to begin with, we click on the M next to transparency. We're going to allocate that transparency map as a bitmap. Scroll down to Text Bitmap, and you're going to select Figure Alpha Sample A. Left click, click OK. Preview. You can see the alpha map there on screen, and we're going to click the Invert tab. So what will be seen at the end of the day will be the transparent bit will be the white, and the solid bit will be the black. So click Preview. The image is now reversed. We can click OK. Preview that on screen. I'm just going to move that to one side, and we're going to allocate that to this material. So I'm bringing the material editor back into screen now, right-clicking, and we're going to allocate or apply material to selection. There we go. And you'll notice you can see it there on the maximized perspective viewport. Now we can do the same with the opposite face. Prior to doing that, we need to allocate the alpha map to that. So if we preview that, you can see it's just a solid color. So we need to add a transparency map. So left click on the M, scroll down to Text Bitmap. This time we're going to select Figure Alpha Sample B from your supported files folder. Click Open, Preview, okay, Invert, so we can see that the white bit will become the transparent amount. And also in this case we're going to scroll down to the UVW settings, and we're going to click Mirror on the U line. Click OK, Preview, and now we're going to apply that material to the other vertical plane. So right click, just move down, we'll just check to see if it's selected. Yep, it's already selected. So right click, scroll down to Apply Material to Selection. There we go. And now I'm going to pause at this point, and we're just going to do a quick test render to see the results. So during that pause, we switched back on the backdrop just so that everything was sitting on a well-illuminated ground plane, and we've rendered that out, and you can see we have the figure on the left walking into shot, which is drawing the viewer back onto our primary design image. But we have a slight problem with the figures on the right, which have us walking out of shot. So we're going to quickly modify that now by going to our material editor. I'll just drag that into shot again. We're on Figure B. So we're going to click on the transparency pane again. And whereas that was mirrored before, I'll just preview it. Whereas that was mirrored before, I'm going to click off the mirrored setting on the UVW. Preview again, you can see it's reversed the other way. Click OK. Just clicking the preview tab there and switch that off. And we're going to pause there again and do a final test render. So now you can see our final results from the test render. We now have two figures, a foreground figure walking in from the left-hand side, and in our mid to background we have two figures walking in from the right-hand side, bringing ourselves back onto the composition in each case. So in this lesson we've learned how to use a vertical plane under the Surface tab, and we've applied a transparency bitmap to that surface in order to give us a soft grade silhouette in order to give a sense of scale to the space. Okay, see you in the next lesson.